The Treaty of Versailles, signed on June 28, 1919, was one of the most significant and controversial peace treaties in modern history. Concluding the First World War, it marked the formal end of hostilities between the Allied powers and Germany, the principal defeated power. Far from being a simple peace agreement, the Treaty of Versailles laid the groundwork for significant political, economic, and social upheaval throughout the 20th century. Its terms shaped interwar Europe, fueled resentment in Germany, and indirectly contributed to the outbreak of World War II. The First World War, which raged from 1914 to 1918, caused unprecedented destruction. An estimated 10 million soldiers and 7 million civilians died as a direct result of the conflict. The war radically altered borders, societies, and ideologies across Europe. When the armistice was signed on November 11, 1918, hostilities ceased, but a formal peace treaty had yet to be negotiated. The peace process culminated in the Paris Peace Conference, which convened in January 1919. Delegates from over 30 nations attended, but the conference was dominated by the leaders of the so-called Big Four: Georges Clemenceau, France; Woodrow Wilson, USA; David Lloyd George, Britain; and Vittorio Orlando, Italy. Their differing aims shaped the negotiations. France, devastated by German invasions, sought security and harsh penalties. Britain aimed for a balanced peace that would preserve its empire and avoid German resurgence. Italy hoped for territorial gains promised in earlier agreements. The United States, led by Wilson, promoted an idealistic vision based on his 14 points, advocating self-determination, open diplomacy, and a League of Nations to prevent future wars. Germany, though central to the discussions, was not invited to participate in the negotiations and was presented with the treaty as a fait accompli. The Treaty of Versailles contained 440 articles divided across numerous sections. Among the most controversial were the following. First, territorial losses. Germany lost significant territories. Alsace-Lorraine was returned to France. Ypres-Malmedy went to Belgium. Northern Schleswig was transferred to Denmark following a plebiscite. The Saar Basin was placed under League of Nations control, with its coal mines given to France. The industrial Rhineland was demilitarized. Danzig became a free city under the League of Nations. The Polish corridor was created to give Poland access to the sea, separating East Prussia from the rest of Germany. All overseas colonies were taken and turned into League of Nations mandates. Second, military restrictions. Germany's military capabilities were drastically reduced. The army was limited to 100,000 men. Conscription was abolished. Tanks, heavy artillery, submarines, and an air force were banned. The navy was restricted to a few small ships. Third, War Guilt Clause, Article 231. Perhaps the most infamous part of the treaty, Article 231, known as the War Guilt Clause, placed sole responsibility for the war on Germany and its allies. This clause justified the harsh reparations imposed on Germany and became a major source of national humiliation. Vierde reparations. Germany was ordered to pay reparations for the damage caused during the war. The total sum was later set at 132 billion gold marks, roughly 33 billion US dollars at the time. The economic burden proved crippling and was a constant source of tension. Fifth, League of Nations. The treaty established the League of Nations, an international body aimed at maintaining peace and resolving disputes. While the League was Wilson's brainchild, the United States Senate refused to ratify the treaty, and the US never joined the League, weakening its authority. Germany was outraged by the treaty. The government had expected peace terms based on Wilson's 14 points and considered the final treaty a diktat, a dictated peace. The public and political elites viewed the treaty as a national humiliation, leading to a sense of betrayal known as the stab in the back myth, Dolchstoßlegende, which claimed that Germany had not been defeated militarily, but had been undermined by internal enemies, particularly Jews, socialists, and communists. This myth and the resentment fueled by the treaty's terms created fertile ground for extremist ideologies, including Nazism, to gain traction in the following decades. In Germany, the treaty contributed to the Weimar Republic's instability. Successive governments struggled with economic crises, political violence, and loss of public confidence. The treaty was a rallying point for radical groups, including Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party, which promised to overturn it. The reparations and loss of industrial territories weakened Germany's economy. In 1923, Germany faced hyperinflation, wiping out savings and further devastating the middle class. Though some reparations were eventually reduced and cancelled, the psychological and economic damage was already done. Many Germans associated democracy with national humiliation and economic chaos. This disillusionment with democratic institutions played a crucial role in the rise of fascism and totalitarian regimes. The League lacked the power and authority to enforce its decisions, partly due to the absence of the United States. It failed to prevent aggression in the 1930s, such as the Japanese invasion of Manchuria, Italy's conquest of Ethiopia, and Germany's remilitarization of the Rhineland. The treaty, intended to prevent future conflict, arguably sowed the seeds of the next Great War. Hitler exploited the widespread hatred of the treaty to gain support, and his aggressive foreign policy was justified by a desire to reverse its terms. Historians have long debated the Treaty of Versailles. Some argue it was too harsh, condemning Germany to economic hardship and political chaos. Others suggest it was too lenient, as Germany remained relatively intact and was able to rearm quickly. A middle ground view holds that the treaty's ambiguity and unenforced provisions made it both oppressive and ineffective. The Treaty of Versailles was more than a peace settlement. It was a symbol of a shattered world order attempting to rebuild itself. Its punitive terms and flawed implementation set the stage for another catastrophic conflict just 2 decades later. While its intent was to secure lasting peace, its legacy remains one of controversy, as historians continue to assess whether it was a tragic mistake or an unavoidable response to an unprecedented war.